Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Goffstown Today, the local public affairs program that's brought to you by the Goffstown Democratic Committee. Our goal in this series is to provide meaningful discussions of some local and state issues that are important to the greater Goffstown community. We're proud to welcome back today Senator Lou D'Alessandro. He's a longtime friend of Goffstown. He was our very first special guest to kick this series off back in August, and as the election nears, we're welcoming him back for an update. Lou has represented District 20, which covers Goffstown and several wards in Manchester since 1998. He's currently the longest serving member of the New Hampshire Senate, and this year he's seeking re-election to his 12th term. The senator plays a key role in New Hampshire's finances as current chairman of the Senate Finance Committee and vice chairman of both the Capital Budget Committee and the Ways and Means Committee. The state must pass a new 2-year budget by June 30th, 2021, and we're going to be asking him today to address the potential impacts of COVID costs, unemployment, and lost revenues on the state's financial future. So Senator, I'd like to start out today by asking just how, since our last conversation in August, things have changed on the state budget front as we've gotten deeper and deeper into the problems of COVID. Thank you very much for being here, sir.
Oh, it's my pleasure, and I'm happy to talk to you about the events that have taken place that are going to have a dramatic effect on us as we move forward. You know, as of March 13th, the state really shut down. The virus was declared an emergency. The governor put into effect emergency powers, and we've been in a state of emergency for over 200 days. The governor declares a state of emergency in 21-day segments. He's done that 10 times. And I'm expecting that will last through the election and maybe through January. So the governor basically has total control of the state at this point in time. The legislature is not in session. The legislature has met virtually twice since March, once to finish up its work and once as a veto session. So there's very little activity as it relates to the budget that's not controlled entirely, by the office of the governor. We're in a state of emergency. And obviously, when you look around at our community of Goffstown and our community of Manchester, you can see it. You see a lack of traffic in the streets. You see people walking around with masks, as they should. You see people keeping their distance, again, as they should. And from a relative standpoint, we have done remarkably well in addressing the virus. The numbers of people who are in hospital are down. The number of deaths are down. We've had, one is too many, but we're in very good shape. But over the course of this virus, over 200,000 people nationwide have passed away as a result of this virus. So it's still a very, very dangerous situation. And there are many who are predicting that the virus is going to get even more sensitive as we move into the colder months. So where are we with the budget? We were cruising along very nicely. We locked up a biennial budget for 2021, and we did some remarkably good things. We had municipal aid in the budget at $20 million a year for 2 years, giving communities an opportunity to spend the $20 million in any way they saw fit. There were no restrictions. That's the first time that's happened in at least a couple of decades. So that was a great situation for us, a great plus for us. We took the 4% reduction in educational aid and we restored it. So the education aid was much better coming back to the communities. And in terms of health and human services, I think we did a very good job of creating the budget. We did some work at New Hampshire Hospital. We removed the children from New Hampshire Hospital and placed them in a facility where they belonged. We took the space and reallocated it so there'll be 48 more beds at New Hampshire Hospital, which are desperately needed. And those that are transitioning out, the Philbrook Center was remade so that transitional housing could take place, and 16 people could be moved into transitional housing. So those are some of the positive things that we did as a result of the budget for 2020. But what happened? Well, things slowed down. As you know, revenues were not as predicted. And at the end of fiscal year 2020, which was on the June 30th, we ended up with a deficit. When the adjustments were made, that deficit is about $66 million. So we're carrying over a $66 million deficit into 2021. $66 million deficit. Now, we've carried over deficits in the past. I haven't done it for a few years, but we're doing it this year. Now, when the CAFR, which is the Consolidated Financial Record, comes out, there will be adjustments, and those adjustments are made by the Controller's Office, and you get a CAFR for the first year of the biennium. And as I said, that CAFR is going to indicate that we carried over a $66 million deficit. So how are things for 2021? Projections are that we may suffer between a $200 to $300 million deficit. That's based on the revenue stream that we looked at in the past and made adjustments going forward. What are the strong points in the budget? What are the weak points? Well, rooms and meals is a weak point. That's a very, very significant revenue component, and rooms and meals are down. But surprisingly, business taxes are up. The taxes based on the sale of homes, which is a very, very significant tax because it's on the buyer and the seller. It's called the real estate transfer tax. The real estate transfer tax is up. Even though the number of units sold is down, the relative cost for those units has accelerated quite dramatically. People are paying well beyond the asking price for units, and as a result, the real estate transfer tax is performing well. Liquor is performing well. Liquor is going to beat their numbers. Again, an interesting situation. People are at home more and are consuming more alcohol. And people from out of state are buying alcohol, so you know what happens. The liquor revenues increase. But overall, we're expecting a deficit situation for the year 2021. Now, as far as the roads are concerned, gas tax revenue is down because travel was really almost curtailed there for a while. And the Department of Transportation, which is the recipient of monies from registrations, from the gas tax and from road tolls, is not living up to its expectations in terms of revenues that were projected. So there was a time when road tolls were really down, and road tolls come from our toll roads, the Effie Everett Turnpike and the Turnpike on the eastern side of our state. Route 95 is a big toll road, particularly as it goes up towards Maine. So toll revenues were down. When toll revenues are down, they're down as a result of people not traveling as much. And of course, that also relates to the gas tax revenue. So that's down. What kind of a picture are we looking at as we move forward? For the month of August and September, revenues produced better than anticipated. What we really have to look at is the future. That's the month of December, which is a big month in terms of revenue. And then, of course, the March, April, big revenue producing months when all business taxes are due. And the business taxes are the huge piece of our revenue. If you take the education trust and the business taxes, they represent about 33% of the revenue produced by the state of New Hampshire. So we have to keep a very watchful eye on that. And we've made a number of changes in business taxes. We're now in conformity. We're now conforming to the federal tax laws, not right year to date, but we are conforming to them in a much better fashion than we did before. We're a couple of years behind. We put in market-based sourcing, which I think was an extremely important situation, as we're trying to adjust our taxing policies so that they interface with other taxing policies, other states around the country. We're looking at some other changes that are going to take place, but they're off until the next couple of years. So, as I said at the beginning, what we're looking at is a deficit for the month of for the year of 2021 that could be in the vicinity of $200 to $300 million. Now, how do you control that? At the end of the year, we have a revenue stabilization account, which has $150 million in it. It's at that point in time, at the end of the biennium, and that's on June 30th of 2021, you can go to the revenue stabilization account and you can make up for a deficit. That's the only time you could do that. So that's one way. Another way is reductions in spending. And there will come a time when the governor will recommend reductions in spending. Now, currently what he's done is said, there's a hiring freeze. You won't be filling any vacancies. That's been on for quite a while. We have a number of vacancies in state government. There's an elimination of travel. You aren't going to be able to travel as you have in the past. And any non-essential expense has been curtailed. So, and as a result of that, you save money. And I think it's interesting for us to note that our savings occurred in the lapses, and the lapses are money that was allocated and not spent. The difference is a lapse. Those lapses exceeded expectations for 2020. They were higher than anticipated. And as a result of that, what was considered a $143 million deficit was reduced to a $66 million deficit in light of the fact that those lapses exceeded expectations. So where are we? Are we in better shape than most states? Yes. But are we in a little difficult period? Absolutely. And how, as I said, how you deal with it is you cut the budget. That's number one. And you cut the budget by doing a number of things. And as I said, one is you don't fill vacancies. Any non-essential expenses are curtailed, and you may even reduce employment. You may reduce the number of state employees, because in reality, a significant percentage of the operating budget of the state are the salaries and benefits that accrue on behalf of state employees. And we have about 8,000 state employees. So that's what it looks like from my vantage point as we speak. And I try to follow the budget on a daily basis. The Legislative Budget Office gives a report of revenues. They do it on a daily basis. The Controller's Office in the Department of Administrative Services gives another report. And Revenue Administration gives a report and also gives some revenue adjustments and projections. And all of this have to be looked at constantly in order to recognize where we are and what we have to do to adjust to certain situations. Now, because of the virus, the CARES Act was passed, and the CARES Act gave us $1.25 billion to spend. And a specific time period was given. All of that money must be spent by the end of December of this year. $1.25 billion. Now, the governor has the exclusive authority to dole out those funds. Exclusive authority. I'm on the Gopher Committee. That's the governor's committee that was established to give him recommendations on how to spend that money. Now, that's important. There are 8 people on that committee: the president of the Senate, the minority leader of the Senate, the Speaker of the House, the minority leader of the House, the chairman of Finance in the House, the chairman of Finance in the Senate, and 2 ranking members of the Finance Committee in the House and the Senate. That constitutes the 8 members of the Gopher Committee. Now, Gopher Committee met today, and one of the issues that we were talking about today, and I think one that affects our town, the town of Goffstown, as well as the city of Manchester, was when the virus came, FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Entity, said that they would cover costs incurred by the schools that were caused by the virus and were not covered in their operating budget. Well, just last month, they came out with another memorandum that said that's not going to be the case. Those costs will not be covered. So all of a sudden, we have an expenditure that's been accrued by the supervisory units that they weren't anticipating, but that they spent on because they thought they were going to be reimbursed by the federal government. So we're debating that issue now as we speak. And is there going to be a way to fill that void? We're working on that, as I said, as we speak. And Goffstown, the hit may be around 600,000. In Manchester, the hit is well into the millions. It's recorded to be about 11 million, but I think that'll be sugared down.
This would be, Senator, for, I believe I've seen things like personal protective equipment,
Yes,
things to retrofit the schools and items like that.
Right, to clean the schools, to sanitize the schools, the personal protective equipment. Any changes you had to make in the schools, the sanitizing of the schools, and you have to do that on if you're coming back, actually going into session, you have to do that on a daily basis. But for example, the Chrome kits that had to be purchased because you were doing things virtually, every kid had to have one so that education could take place, learning experience could take place. So there have been some expenses that have been incurred that they thought were going to be paid for by FEMA. FEMA said no, and now we're working on a situation to try to address some of those expenses. And as you move forward, and as you try, some people are trying a hybrid method, some people are doing all virtual, and some people are in the midst of changing because they brought them back and then had to stop it and had to go virtual, and now they're trying to readjust to that. Everybody would like to see the kids back to school. I mean, it's a terrible situation. Think of the mental health of we're social animals, and the effect on the mental health of our students by not having them in school. We're social animals. Social interaction is very important to our lifestyle. It's a very significant part of our life experience, and it really doesn't exist today. I mean, you look at how we're doing this. We'd like to be doing this, in the studio and have good interaction, but we're doing it virtually. Fortunately, we can do it virtually, but it's not the best situation. And we're facing all of these things, and they have a cost. They have an actual physical cost in terms of actual dollars expended, but they have associated social costs, which I think are just as important and really have to be considered. So as we move along this path, we're looking at these things really on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, and adjusting as we speak. And one of the things that we have to be really aware of is the projections or the thoughts that the virus is going to come back in a different strain for the winter. So it'll be a recurrence, and that will have a significant effect on us and a significant effect on our revenues. And we're adjusting revenues. The House Ways and Means Committee meets to adjust revenues on a timely basis. Our revenue administration, in conjunction with the governor's offices, is getting ready to produce revenue estimates for the future, but they're also looking at revenues as they come in on a monthly basis. All of these have to be looked at very carefully and on a repeated basis because of, as I said, because of the changes that are taking place. Now, one thing I didn't discuss is the money that we need to send to hospitals because of the situation they were put in when they had to close down elective surgeries to prepare for the virus, and they lost a significant portion of their revenues. And as a result of that, the governor, by using this 1.25 million, was able to send some money to the hospitals to help them survive. And across the board, many entities have received money from the 1.25 million. And without that, I think we would have been in more trouble, in a lot more trouble. But let's stop there, Lynn, and address any questions that you might have.
Well, I'm just thinking about going forward, given the position that Congress has taken up to this point, that none of this planning includes anything in the way of federal assistance for covering any of these COVID-related deficits. Is that correct?
You're absolutely right. The Congress has been battling, the House and the Senate and the President have been battling month after month after month to try to come up with another stimulus package, because we need another stimulus package. Many states have deficits. States need help in addressing these deficits. Now, we're fortunate. We're talking about a $200–300 million deficit. There are states that are looking at billion-dollar deficits, multi-billion-dollar deficits. And how are they going to pull out of these situations without help from the federal government? Now, some people in the United States Congress have said, let these states go bankrupt. Well, that's nonsense. You can't let these states go bankrupt. We are the United States of America. We have a federal government, 435 representatives, 100 senators. If they can't get together and solve some of the problems that are facing our states, then, brother, we're in real trouble. And I think the stalemate that has gone on it's a disservice. It's a disservice to us. It's a disservice to all of the states. And it's a disservice to democracy. These men and women are supposed to get along and supposed to be working in the best interest of the people they represent. That's us, the best interest of the people they represent. Nothing good has happened. We had one situation where the $1,200 came back to the families. There was a $600 increase in the unemployment benefit, but all of that's over. That's over. And what is going to happen now is a subject of debate between the House and the Senate. Now, the Secretary of the Treasury is supposedly working with the Speaker of the House. I don't think anyone works with the majority leader in the Senate, because he's not a workable guy, I guess. But indeed, if we don't do something, we're in bigger trouble. And that's the way it is. I mean, that's a fact. That's not fiction. That's not false news. That's the truth.
What makes November 3rd the most important date on the calendar?
You are not kidding. November 3rd is the most significant date, really the most significant voting date in my lifetime. People have been asking for absentee ballots because anybody can vote absentee. The virus has allowed for any person to vote absentee. So ask for your absentee ballot, fill it out properly, and that again is very important. You've got to fill out one envelope, then you've got to put that envelope in the other envelope and get that envelope back. And if you don't put enough postage on it, the post office will still service you. that's an important situation because in many instances it takes 2 stamps, and that's $1.10 to get it mailed back. So the post office will handle those, even though the postage may not be correct. But voting on November 3rd it's a patriotic duty, it's a civic duty, it's a civic responsibility, and it's so important. This is the most important voting day in my lifetime. And I tell you, people have to take this very seriously. You know, we're very good as citizens of the state of New Hampshire. We do pay attention. We do behave ourselves. We are wearing the masks. Now, what I'm told is nationally, urban centers are wearing the mask and they are spacing, but in rural centers, they're not doing it. I don't think that's the case in Goffstown. Having been downtown on a number of occasions, I've seen people with the masks, and I'm very proud of that.
With that, Senator, I have to give, we got about a minute left. If there's any concluding remarks you would like to
Well,
make,
first of all,
we appreciate very much your being here with us today. And, you know, hopefully we'll see you again after November 3rd.
well, I say this, please vote on November 3rd. I ask for your vote. I ask for your support. I think all of the Democrats ask for your vote, ask for your support. The most important thing is that you vote. And informational programs like this are so important because people want to know what's going on. And I thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. I thank all of my friends and citizens of Goffstown for their commitment to doing the right thing. And come November 3rd, please vote. And November 4th, let's celebrate a victory. Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Senator. Thanks to everyone who has been watching today. Just to remind you that you'll be able to watch these programs here on Goffstown TV. You can find them on the videos page on our website, goffstowndems.com. We have a Goffstown Democrats YouTube channel, and you can also find them on facebook.com/GoffstownDems. Please like them. Please share them widely. Thank you for watching today. Goodbye for now.